So do you want to go back to your question?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, listen, I know, yeah.
So
ask it again.
I don't really, I mean, I just kind of was curious, really about more of the story, about maybe
the history. Yeah.
Maybe you could kind of go back.
No, there's a story. Yeah.
This is why I started it. This is the trajectory of it. Maybe a number of books earlier on, and then a fewer later, and then maybe the character of it changed in some way. And,
there's a story. I had a manuscript called Distance, which is one of the books over there. And I sent it, it was actually, it originally had been called Random House when I wrote it. Yeah, right. And all the words came out of my copy of the Random House Collegiate Dictionary. Okay? I should...
Oh, wait, I'm sorry.
Oh, you have it? Yeah.
Well, actually, I don't have that one, but...
Oh, that's the first one. And, I wrote this book. Actually, my friend Bill Bergson was a poet who's living in Lewis and now is in the city, but you might know about his work. He's sort of second generation New York school person who raised New York people who moved to Bolinas. He's an art critic, and so the poems are like prose poem looking things. And he said to me once, and also it's one of sort of Bernadette Mayer's, writing exercises, experiment things, but write a poem using found language. And I said, well, what about writing out of a source? And I thought, what about this dictionary? So I started to use the dictionary and developed into this work. I sent a manuscript to some presses I knew, and they said, oh, this is really nice work, but we can't publish it, or we're full, or we're going out of business, basically. I got some of those. And I thought, no, this is a drag. I'm done with the book and I'd like to have it in print. So I thought, I spoke to some people. I thought, well, maybe I should start a press. And I asked some friends and fellow poets that I knew, what about, maybe I should start a press. But I asked like Lynn Ginny, I know in Berkeley. She said, yeah, great idea. Because she had Tomba books and these sorts of things. So basically, I created the press at New B. You also asked in your email about the name, which is another story. When I first went to New York in '82, I think I went for a job interview, and I'd never been since as an adult, and it was exciting to go there. I went to an MLA interview, and I stayed with friends of my then wife on the Lower East Side, and they lived on 3rd and Avenue B. Those were the childhood friends my wife had grown up with. And so Avenue B was there, and I lived on Brighton Avenue in Bolinas. So I thought, that was the type, this B thing. And I thought, so I would start this press, and I went to books in print. I figured out how to do it. I had a Mac Classic. I typeset the book in Word, and did my. I wanted this color scheme. All the first colors were red, Pantone, I think 400C, red, black, and white. Someone pointed out later, God, that's the color of the German flag, which I didn't know, but that wasn't my intent at all. And so, the thing about Random House, a friend of mine on the soccer field in Bolinas, who's a lawyer, Peter Gubbins, said to me one day, I told him that I was going to publish this book called Random House. He said, have you ever thought that Random House, the company, might not like that? And I hadn't. And he said, well, you might check into it. So, naively, I wrote them a letter saying, I'm in a small press and then published this book, and do you mind? And they wrote back, immediately, this legal letter saying, yes, we mind. We have 7 lawyers on retainer, dealing with these kinds of issues all the time. You cannot do this. It's trademarked. It's not just copyright. And to give you an example, there was a company that was publishing these corners for mounting photographs and albums back then, and it was called Random Mount. And Random House, made an injunction against them, and they had to cease and desist or change their title. So I thought, this book is going to be in books in print, next to the Random House handbook and all these Random House books, so they're going to certainly find out about it. And so I chickened out, basically. I thought, well, I don't know what to do. I can't use the title. In retrospect, maybe I should have. Maybe it would have been a cause célèbre, like go to court and Howl or something, become more famous. But anyway, I changed it to distance, and so the red lines are supposed to be parallel lines receding into infinity. It's pretty primitive, but that's when it began. I also thought, I don't want to just publish my books, so I want to publish other books. And the second book was Japan by Maxine Chernoff, which is now all but out of print. I have a few copies. I went to see, she did a reading in San Francisco, and it was this alphabetical series of poems, A through Z. Japan is the J poem. And so I liked it, and I said, oh, I'm publishing books. Do you want to send me your manuscript? So she did, and I published that one. And there were others that followed after that. And I once got an NEA grant to publish, well, Susan Gevirtz and Elizabeth Willis was an NEA grant, and the book of interviews called Talking in Tranquility, Ted Berrigan's collected interviews. Leslie Scalapino got the manuscript from, or it actually was manuscripts from Alice Notley, Ted Berrigan's widow. They were all interviews conducted over years. They were all in different formats, different, they were just typescripts of these things. And I edited that and put it into this book, which I don't have a copy of. That was also, I think that was a grant. Maybe that was a grant with Michael Davidson's book. So, but then, it's very hard to make money publishing small press poetry books, so the bank account went down. And it's also, it wasn't my primary interest to be a publisher. I also, teach in a college, and I have this, a wife and child, and it's a busy life. So it was, my commitment and endeavor, and I think my financial backing for the, Leslie Scalapino began old books at about the same time, and she published 100 books. I mean, there was just a huge output put there, and it wasn't in my can to be able to do that, and it wasn't really it's a major endeavor, and there's marketing was never a strong point either, although with SPD the books can be marketed, but advertising and so on. That's the short answer.